So it looks like everyone within the game's media sphere has got their marching orders to attack a certain game. Maybe this game featured something so wildly offensive and preachy that it put a pushing agenda over trying to actually entertain the player. Or maybe the game took a look at their legacy and instead of exploring the various aspects that players love about it, from the interesting characters, tactical combat, meaningful player choice, and engrossing stories, they now decide to ignore all of that, wipe the slate clean, push legacy characters to the side, and produce something that honestly barely resembles the universe that it came from. That isn't what happened here. If it was, then we'd all be probably praising and then reading all of these media outlets more often, with less of them dying off. But they don't really care about good games, they want indoctrination. So Game Rant came out with an article poking fun at Black Myth Wukong, in that it was part of a group that was nominated for Game of the Year by the Game Awards. Game Rant found the nomination to stick out like a sore thumb. One of the biggest things being is that Game Rant cites that Black Myth has the lowest rated Metascore for a nominee, with it being at 81. I mean, I didn't even play this game. I wanted to, but I haven't had the opportunity to try it. Honestly, even more than the article itself, what I really took issue with was the wording of their tweet to promote this article. Of the 6 games nominated for 2024 Game of the Year, Black Myth garners attention as a standout choice, but not for the right reasons. The way it's worded makes it seem like Game Rant is speaking on behalf of gamers, and this especially even implies that the game's media, in this case with Game Rant, knows better than what the players do, and even the people that voted on the nominees. Yup, all of us are stupid and we are completely relying on the game's media to tell us how we should think. Whoever the writer is for this apparently doesn't know their audience very well. This feels more like a passive-aggressive way to poke at a group of gamers that really enjoyed the game. As an outsider, just seeing the release of this title and seeing how gamers generally seem to really enjoy this game, I did not understand how it seemed like many within the game's media wanted to tear this specific game down. Actual players seem to like it because it appears to just be a good piece of entertainment. There doesn't seem to be any agenda or anything like that. It's just fun, and maybe that is where a big issue rests with many of these games media people, and saw that there wasn't a particular progressive message that was being pushed here. So to the media, the game was failing in that department, because for many of them, the message is way more important than the art, than the actual fun. It's stuff like this where I'm like, do these people that write these articles even know their audience? Because it feels like the disconnect is so big when it comes to some of this stuff, that many of these writers should not honestly be writing for an outlet where the focus is on video games. Now let's circle back to this article from Game Rant more specifically. There are a few things that they touch on with why maybe Black Myth should not have been included, or maybe other games should have been nominated over it. But a key one that they focus on is the Metascore. I mean, on face value, an 81 looks like a strong score. That's on the lower end of very good, and more importantly, when you look at how players discuss and talk about this game, it's usually in high regards. In this case, it would seem that for this nomination, it was a surprise that actually feels like the judges were in line with what people actually felt. Now that isn't something that is felt across the board with the entire nominations. The judges didn't get it all right, because there needs to be some more love for Space Marine 2, but I'm just biased because that game is great fun. What I find very funny is how the article seems to imply that there are fans that are upset with Black Myth being included as part of the Game of the Year nominees. Again, this is a title that appears to have universal love. Gamers like it. So then where is the outrage of gamers that are then pissed that Black Myth got nominated? This feels like gaslighting, because if there are gamers that are upset over this, they are not a large group, especially compared to the many that appear to actually like this game. Along with this, where are the vocal examples of gamers expressing that they are upset about this? I think the writer of this article would have a better ground to stand on if they just showed some tweets that got a bunch of traction saying that people were not happy with this nomination. So where are these people? Because it feels like all of this was just fabricated, to then just write and then gaslight the reader into thinking this nomination was not needed or that another game should have taken its place. It would appear that the same audience that seems to be mad that Black Myth got nominated for Game of the Year is also the same thing as the modern audience. It doesn't exist. Probably one of the more unintended comical aspects of this article is the effort made to defend Dragon Age the Veilguard. The article cites that it was shocking to see that Veilguard did not get any of the normal nominations that a good BioWare game would be given. As a quick note, I honestly was surprised that Dragon Age was not nominated for more things than accessibility. I find the award shows in this games media space to all be about them trying to smell each other's farts, then actually get into the games that take up the space. Dragon Age happen to have stuff that aligns with their worldview, and they usually latch on to that stuff and want to keep pushing it to the player. I actually foresaw Dragon Age being nominated, and then Dragon Age probably winning, but in this case I was so surprised with the lack of nominations here. Many things are really changing. Maybe the people making the nominations preferred those games over others. Maybe they read the room and they didn't want the backlash from nominating or having Dragon Age win any big awards, so they went with a few more options that were more in line with what players really like. But I don't really want to give them too much credit. The nominations didn't get everything right, and they still want to count DLC as a game. That's just wrong. But back to the article. The writer is really petty, even citing that Veilguard got an 82 on Metacritic, whereas Black Myth had an 81. If you live and die by those scores, I would recommend that you need to spend more time actually just playing games, and preferably good games. Some of my favorite games didn't score well, like Alpha Protocol. Go out and play more stuff, please. This whole article, along with a lot of others, feels like a situation of the writer or outlet would have picked different games to be included on their list, and as such, Black Myth would not be one of those games. And on face value, that's fine. If you're making a list, that's fine. It's personal to you and how you felt about certain games, and you're free to use any criteria you want to put whatever you want on your personal list. For me, if I was to create a list for this year, I would probably include the re-release of the Timesplitters trilogy, because we saw them return on the PS4 and 5. Yes, I know they didn't really come out new this year, but they did kind of have a re-release again. But I think the problem with how Game Rant goes about their disagreement of Black Myth is how things are done through their wording, positioning itself as a figure of authority within the gaming community, and then wishes and then maybe hopes that its readers flock to them like a bunch of lemmings, never offering up any counterpoints. And if that is the case, I have some news for you in the games media. You really need to know your audience better. Gamers are among some of the most passionate and vocal bunch, and most importantly, let them speak and take the time to actually listen to them, especially if you want to keep many of them as your audience. One would assume you would want to garner readers who actually enjoy game-related articles on your game-related website. If that isn't your audience, then I don't know what is. Even just on a smaller front with my own channel and audience, one of the best parts is interacting with my community and viewers. I love reading what they have to say and getting involved in the conversations. It's a big part of the fun. And something I always appreciate with my audience is how they speak their mind and don't beat around the bush. So I guess as a lesson to Game Rant and the games media, don't try to come at this with wording that makes it seem like you're talking down to the reader. And for a website like Game Rant, we need some more rant execution. If you're going to call yourself that, please come with an article that provides the entertainment value of a good rant, not like something that feels like it was spit out of the progressive video game journalist machine. Look to Razorfist on how to do it well. So what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you think that Black Myth should be part of the games that are nominated for Game of the Year? If you had issues with a game and were a writer for a games media outlet, how would you go about trying to engage on that topic? Am I completely off the mark here? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.